Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Jeff Gluck from SBNation.com, and you're on AmpUp88.com. This is the place where you come and amp up for the race every week, and we're happy to have you again. Junior Nation, this is the place to check out. There's a lot of cool stuff on this site. One thing they have is that I think is really cool. They have Dale Jr. autograph items that they give away every day that you can register on the site, which is cool.
Very good.
They also have a video series this week coming up on Friday. It's going to be Lance McGrew talking about the spoiler at Texas. That's a big change for this week. And then you can follow the 88 team spotter, TJ Majors, on Twitter, which is somebody I follow. And next week on the chat, we're going to have Lance McGrew, the crew chief. That'll be the same time, 12:30, next Wednesday, April 21st. But right now, this guy sitting right next to me is Brian Whitesell. He's the team manager for the 5 and 88 teams, and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And you know, I walked in this morning, and it's like, not like there's any big news going on here in the 5 and 88 shop today or anything like that. Actually, it's pretty cool. Big day. Hendrick has announced that Casey Kane is going to be driving the 5 car starting in 2012, and that's obviously got to be pretty exciting for you guys. Can you talk about that?
It is just really good to know, what the future is going to hold for us, and Mr. Hendrick does a great job at looking forward and having things ready for us and lined up, and we know Mark doesn't want to go for forever, and so Casey is our next step, and really excited at what's going to happen.
Awesome. All right, well, that's my question. So now let's get to some of your questions. You can submit your questions, and I'll try to relay them to Brian here. Brian, the first question from Jake Backer is what are your day-to-day responsibilities in the 5 and 88 shop? And can you tell us, like, as team manager, what exactly do you do? What does that involve?
Well, Jake, what I do is I try to keep things straight for the crew chiefs so that they can stay focused on making the cars go faster. So that can vary a little bit from day to day, but basically taking care of a lot of the administration, making sure that from payroll to paying the bills, and doing a little bit of engineering work on the side, but just overall management of everything that we have to deal with here in the shop.
So how did you get to where you are today? I mean, there's so many people at Hendrick. It seems like they started at the ground floor, the bottom level in the sport, and they worked their way up. Can you talk about some of the steps that got you to this point?
Yeah, it's one of the good things about working at Hendrick is you have the opportunity to prove yourself and work your way up. And I started off when Jeff Gordon started. I had the opportunity to start off being the truck driver and drove the transporter for the first couple of years. And teams were much smaller then, so we had to do a lot more things, and it gave us a lot more opportunities, which that led into working on the car some, and then doing some setup work on the car. And one thing led to another, and we didn't even have what you call race engineers at that time. So kind of evolved that position. Didn't have car chiefs. We didn't call them those names at that time, but that's when that was evolving. So we worked through that. Won a few championships with Jeff Gordon in that race engineering position with Ray Evernham and Jeff. And Ed Guzzo was then, before we called that, was a car chief. That's what he was doing. And then when Ray decided to go start his own deal, I finished out that year as the crew chief. And then a lot of the structure had changed at that time because we had lost so many people. So the opportunity to get Robbie Loomis came along. So we kind of developed what we call now the same thing. Another position was developed, and that was the team manager role. And it was basically to assist the crew chief and getting things done. And got that going, got the 48 team started, and built the building that they're in now. And once that was up and running well, Mr. Hendrick decided to build a building for the 5 and the 88. It's 25 at that time. So we built another building using that same structure and that same idea. And that's where we are today with Mark Martin and Dale Jr.
Awesome. So how many championships have you been associated with?
Fortunate enough to quit counting, but I guess 4 with Jeff, and indirectly now 4 with Jimmy.
Pretty good.
Partial year, I actually was part of the year with Alan Kowicki the year that he won the championship as well. So
I've heard that. Did you do some spotting even for him?
I was a spotter for some of that year. Yes.
Interesting.
He helped drive the truck on that deal, and that's how that all started and evolved into this deal. That's actually where I met Ray was at Allen's.
Cool. By the way, one of the questions that we're getting is that your mic is buried up in your shirt a little bit. Could you adjust that? Then the people can hear you a little bit better. There we go.
Okay.
Now we're good, right, everybody? So this week at Texas, Brian, is really big because it's the first time that the spoiler is going to be used on a big speedway with the COT. West Coast Gal 88 is wondering your thoughts about that. Is it going to make it more difficult to drive? What are going to be some of the challenges with that?
We haven't seen a tremendous difference with the spoiler, and this will be the first time we've been in competition at a big track. So we are not expecting tremendous changes, but we are prepared. And basically it'll just be a matter of fine-tuning the car with the panels they added on the rear of the tail to add that side force to help hold the car straight on the track in addition to the spoiler. We're not looking at big changes. We expect that things are going to go pretty smoothly and not a lot of drama associated with the spoiler.
There's a lot of people that are wondering, you know, everybody's heard so much about it. So pretty much George Cox is wondering, after 2 weeks, your feelings about it. Is it pretty much we're not really going to see a big change in the racing or any dramatic differences here?
I think this will be the first weekend that we'll really know how much it's going to change the racing. Up to this point, I don't feel like it has changed the racing a great deal, but it hasn't made it any worse. So the ability to pass and the competition, I think this weekend will be the first real test of it, and it's just hard to tell the short tracks. That's kind of why we started out that way.
Mm-hmm. The Hestercution, which is a great name, I've seen this guy on Twitter. He's wondering how easy or difficult is it to share information between the 5 and 88 teams, where we hear a lot of times about how big of a deal that is in Hendrick and how much information is shared. What's that process like? Can you kind of take us through that a little bit? That's
one of the systems that I work with a lot, is to make sure that system is accurate and working well and giving the teams what they need. The information flows very freely. The cars are extremely similar. That is a lot of what I do, is to try to communicate that within this building and even with the 24 and 48, to make sure we all know what each other is doing, to learn what to do and what not to do. So we have computer software that we use, databases, information sharing devices, the internet, instant messaging, a whole variety that we use all the time during the day here at the shop and at the track and even during the race.
Interesting. So West Coast Gal 88 is wondering then, how close are all 4 teams in their setups, and what drivers like the same type setup? Is there any comparison between any of them?
The setups can vary each weekend, and we look at what is, the watch and the drivability is what determines what the good setup is. And so we will look at the setup that is making the cars go fast, because the drivers we feel are all capable drivers. So we look at the components of the car and the setups, the springs, the shocks, and what's working for us. And we will keep trying it, and one driver may just not like that feel, and we'll go back a little bit, but then they get together and talk about it. Well, why do you like that? Mm-hmm. And they go, well, I never really thought about it that way. You're right, it did help me do that. Well, they say, well then, yes, then make the other adjustment to fix your other problem. So just that communication is what makes it all work, and which keeps us at the top by keeping all that information out there and wide open.
Interesting. Dances with Kat, which is a great great name, but she's on here every week. She must be a loyal AMP drinker. Is wondering what the interaction is with you and then the 24-48 shop. I mean, do you still, when you're talking about information sharing or whatever, do you work with them at all, or how do you guys relate?
Yeah, that's where I was, for the last couple of hours. We get together each week amongst all the teams, and we have a design meeting on what current new projects are going on. That's a daily interaction. I work with the gear and transmission shop and walk right through the 24-48 shop to get to that shop and work with those guys all the time on different things that we're looking at out in the future. The other thing we look at is problem reports. If one team has a problem at the racetrack, we bring that home and analyze it for all the teams, and then develop a solution and go back with that.
Okay. Flate23 has a simple question. What is the best part of your job?
The best part of the job, I mean, I still love working on cars and working with the race cars and getting paid to do it. So
that doesn't sound so bad.
No, it doesn't sound so bad. That's what I've always enjoyed doing. That's why I'm here. And everything else is to help make those cars go fast and winning and those championships. I mean, you want to be at the top of your game, and that's why we're here.
Something we usually get asked on here every week is people want to know, they want to be sitting in your chair. You know, they want to get to where you're at. If somebody's out there and wants to get into the field, how would you advise them to start out, or, you know, what path should they try to take to get into this industry?
There are several ways to get in. There's no wrong way to get in that I know of. It does take a lot of hard work, and the thing that's interesting about the sport now is there's so many different jobs that you can do, and it just depends on what you want to do when you arrive. You know, whether you want to paint a car, work in the media, or set up the car, drive the transporter. So then that determines, you know, what you need to do to get in that position. But you need to be willing to have a very open mind, because of the travel and the variety of things that go on with this job. It's not just going out and building a product. You know, we have to, you've got to make the sponsors happy. You've got to, got to perform each weekend. And there's a lot of, you've got to be the best at whatever job that you're doing and portray that, at each step of the way. And don't worry about getting to the top in the first week. That's very difficult to do. What you need to do is whatever job you're working on at that time, you need to be the best at it.
Interesting. Last week, Doug Ducart was here, and I believe he mentioned that you call him the doctor. Is that right?
Yes, I do call him the doctor.
Why was that? He couldn't get a good reason.
He has the presence of the doctor as he walks into the room. So
okay.
As a matter of respect for Mr. Ducart,
okay,
we call him the doctor.
I see. So it's respectful.
Yes,
okay,
of course.
Gotcha. We have a couple questions here from people you may know already. Not that you don't know Dances with Cat, but you may someday or something.
Not as that name. Yeah.
Right. Somebody named Lance McGrew would like to know, is it true that your wife flipped Kelly Earnhardt on a go-kart?
There was an issue with, we had a little play day over at Dale Jr.'s, and they're both competitive ladies, and they were out there having fun, and one thing led to another, and one car's in the ditch and the other one's upside down. So
really?
That's all I know about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
No replay on that?
I think there is video.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I'm not sure where that video lives, but there was a camera involved.
All right. And another person that you may know, TJ Majors, says, can you fill in a spot for me if my baby comes at a bad time?
If Dale Jr.'s okay with it, I think we can work something out.
Yeah? Okay. Well, you have spotting experience, so.
Yes.
Yes. And they have some interesting radio chatter sometimes, so you could get in on that. And
yes.
I'm sure you are listening to all of that.
I've been yelled at before.
Yeah.
I don't think directly by Junior yet, but yeah.
Okay. And then the people calling themselves the 5 and 88 engineers, I don't know who specifically, but whose cooking do you prefer at the track, Trucker on the number 88 or Biscuit on the number 5?
They both have their interesting qualities. It depends on what you're looking for that day.
Okay.
If you're looking for some good old-fashioned chili, well, then Trucker's the place to go.
All right.
When the hot dog roller was in place, and you were looking for a hot dog that day, that was the thing to do. Biscuit is, there's a little bit more of the fine tuning, the upscale cuisine, but
oh, that sounds
yes.
That sounds probably more my taste than the hot dog roller. I mean, hot dogs have their place, but
yeah, it just depends on what you're in the mood for.
Right. Okay. Well, just a reminder, we're kind of halfway through this here. You're chatting with Brian Whitesell. He's the manager of the 5 and 88 teams. We're on ampupthe88.com, which is where Junior Nation amps up before the race every week. And so keep the questions coming. Looking at some of the other questions we have here, West Coast Gal is wondering, do you miss the days where you could build T-Rex even though NASCAR banned it for being too good? Or a T-Rex type car, Yes,
you do. I mean, and that's, we take pride in the fact that NASCAR has generated quite a few rules on our behalf. But we still, you know, there's always going to be a gray area that you can work in, and we're working in those areas now. You know, wherever they have not created a rule yet, that's our job, is to work in those areas to make the car go faster. So yeah, it's changed a lot, but or really the competition, you know, we still are winning. So we're happy with that. Just that your range has gotten much smaller, but you can still do it.
Mm-hmm. ERV Mary wants to know, whose pit box do you sit on during the race, and do you make any decisions during the race?
When I do go to the track, I have been on top of the 88 box. Mainly just we get the seating capacity maxed out, and it's just worked out that way. But during the race, I'll offer some suggestions. I will be scanning some other cars because you can't have too many voices in your head and just get confused when the guys are on the front row. So what I'll do is I'll listen to whoever's running well, or our teammates, and find out what's working for them, what's not, offer some suggestions, write them down, show them to Lance and Chris Leroy, and then they choose to use the information or not.
Mm-hmm. Barrow SM would like to know, what is it like changing positions within the same team or the organization as many times as you have? You've held so many different places and gone from place to place. What is that like for you?
That hasn't been a bad situation each time, and sometimes I do revert back to those positions. Every now and then I'll get to drive the truck again, help them drive home.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before I helped them drive around. The Michigan Sonoma turnaround is pretty difficult, so I actually drove the 88 hauler part of the way home.
Wow.
And, you know, so it just depends on what's going on, but I use it to my advantage now to try to help the other guys, you know, because I've been in their position, to try to help make their job easier, and I try to understand what they're going through and try to get them the stuff that they need. But it's been good to work in all those different areas, because you appreciate what they have to go through every day in order to make the car go fast.
You know, the hauler driver, that's just, I always see those guys and it looks like a tough job. I mean, especially the long distance drives they have to do.
When I started, you know, you had more weekends off. You were not traveling nearly as much to the West Coast. I went to one of the first Loudon races. That didn't exist. Chicago wasn't there. We weren't going to Indy. Yeah, it's tough with the distance, you know, because we have to get loaded up earlier. They get home later, and it makes it tough. It makes the weeks very short.
Mm-hmm. DEJ Fan 88 would like to know, who was your favorite driver as a kid?
I had my brother was a Richard Petty fan. I was a Cale Yarborough fan.
Oh.
And we had the models and the whole deal. And then I certainly watched Dale Sr. and was a big fan of his. And then, you know, I was I can't remember at that time where I transitioned into it, but you know, that's when I was getting close to being able to get in, and was able to. I appreciated what Alan Kowicki was doing with little to no money, and saw that as my opportunity to get in the sport. So I was a big Alan Kowicki fan at the time, because he did a lot of the stuff by himself, from designing what they were going to do with the engines, to putting them in the car, setting the car up, the whole package. So that was, you know, that was an enjoyable time as well.
Mm-hmm. You were on the pit box for crew chiefing, what, at Dover last year, maybe? One race for junior, is that?
Half the weekend.
Half the weekend, yeah. And then obviously you'd done it when Ray left
Yes.
with Jeff. So MU Tiger is wondering, would you ever consider being a crew chief again?
If needed be, that's what I would do. But I think we have many qualified guys here now, and it works better when guys are working, like as I did, you're working your way up.
Yeah. They
actually know more about the car than I do. So that's when it makes more sense for them to fill in on that role than for me to work with it. Now that I've kind of transitioned more into the management role, I don't know exactly what they're doing with every change on the car. So it probably wouldn't be the best for me to do that, but I'm sure knock the rust off and try it again. We
have another question here. Once the car is on the hauler, how much can you actually change it if there's a problem at the track? Or let's say it comes off the truck and it's not good, which obviously probably doesn't happen in this shop as much. Seems like you guys have run pretty well, but what happens? What's that process like? How much can you actually change it when you're at the track and get it to run better?
We can change a lot. We have loaded the trucks up, sent them out, and flown an engine out to have changed, or a transmission, or a gear, springs, sway bars. We can change just about everything on the car, front end geometry, rear end geometry. We carry enough parts and pieces on the primary transporters and on secondary transporters that Champion brings for us, that with all those parts and pieces we can change pretty much the entire car. The only thing that we can't heavily influence, and NASCAR's helped us with that as well, and that would be the body or the actual true chassis. But any bolt-on part is no problem and has been changed at one time or another.
Has there ever been an instances with Kat again, our friend? Yeah. Has there ever been an instance where you needed a second, she says a third backup car, but a third car in a weekend, like two cars wrecked or whatever reason? Have you ever been associated with that, and what's happened then?
Yes, actually, when I learned how quickly that can happen was when I was with Alan Kowicki. I was actually working a real job at the time, and it was the first time we had radials on the car at Dover, and also I believe it was the first year they may have concreted the track. And Alan wrecked a car in practice, went out soon thereafter and wrecked another car. So we loaded up a third car in a dually and headed to Dover.
Wow.
With that third car. And now we do not do that every weekend, but we basically have a car set aside at the shop. If needed, we would take a dually and a trailer or a rollback, run the car there. During the chase, we actually have a third car within a couple hours of the racetrack as standard procedure for all the chase contenders. And also for Daytona Speed Weeks, we have a third car sitting just outside the track, ready to come in. And unfortunately, we had to use one of those this year.
Is that car, like, is it one car for each team, or one car that you can wrap, you know, as the 5 or 88, or is it's already?
If things are going well, it'll be one car per team.
Okay.
So the seats in it, really all we've got to do, it may or may not have a motor in it to make some laps, but generally it would not have a motor in it. We would install whatever we need at that time and go ahead with that.
Dale Jr. fan forever is wondering, are you guys, specifically the 88 team and Junior, excited for the Texas race, and what do you think Junior's chances are at Texas?
Yes, we are very excited about his opportunity there. Ran well both races last year, and really looking forward to it. That's, you know, I think one of his first wins. If I may have those facts wrong, but
yeah, I think that's right.
He's always run well out there. We sat on the pole up with Dale Jr. out there, so there's been a lot of good come out of Texas. So it's always one that we look forward to a little bit more than others.
By the way, I'm noticing our amp sitting here. Every weekend we've been asking what your favorite flavor is of the amp. Do you have a favorite at all?
So the new amp Lightning.
Yeah.
Very good, yes.
All right, good to know. Yalos, I don't know how to pronounce your name, I'm sorry. But who is actually in charge of building the race cars, and how many people are involved in that process?
There's a lot of people involved. The crew chief has the final call on how the car is built. He takes the input from the other 500 people here on the complex.
Yeah.
But there are different people in different stages. You have 4 to 5 guys building the chassis, 3 or 4 guys that hang the body. We've got an entire fab shop that'll prep it, and then on from there. So I think there's probably 100 people involved from that car coming out of the steel rack all the way to a finished product. And each one has their different role, from installing the brakes to painting the car.
Another question here, which is interesting because we hear, again, so much about this as far as the communication. You talked about how, you know, part of your role is to have the teams communicate with each other. how about Stewart Haas Racing? How much are you involved with getting them, their information sharing and all that stuff? How does that work with your role?
We use that same system that has been developed for us and for some other teams, and that way the crew chiefs can look at the data between the companies, so that they understand what's going on. And it's very open book between our buildings, and again, I think that helps us all. That whole thing of knowing what to do and what not to do. They tried that. Don't go there. Let's try something else.
We talked about T-Rex earlier. Where is it now? And what do you think that car's legacy is?
I believe that car is in the museum. As far as I know, that's the last time I've seen it. And its legacy was that was the first time that we really stepped out there and took a big step to see what it would make a difference. And it certainly did. That was one of the early steps of our R&D department, and they've been in place ever since, helping us develop product. Rex Stump, that was one of the first times for his fame. That's part of the reason that the car was named after him, for his contribution as well. And I think that's the whole thing, is that legacy of us branching out and the engineering and the structure of our company, that went into that car.
I have a feeling that I probably know the answer to this one, but I'll ask you anyway. Quicks99 wants to know, can the public get access to your engineering simulations?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, all of our stuff is proprietary, and we feel it's protected. We check that protection as often as we can, and to make sure that, yes, we keep that to ourselves.
Adam Teague also has a question about the simulation software. He's asking what kind it is, but is the simulation software that you have something that a team is available and can go out and buy, or is it something that's basically customized for what your needs are at Hendrick?
Ours is customized for us, and Dave McLean and now H.A. Mergen that's what they work on, is to continue to develop that and fine-tune that to our needs. So it's very specific to what we need. There are other software companies, I believe, that make that type of software, but ours is very customized to our exact application. The way we gather information, the way we put it in there, it's tailored to us.
We only have a few minutes left, so this is going to be the last few questions, but Debbie488 would like to know, Dale Jr. has a great sense of humor, and she's wondering if he's ever played a joke on you, or a practical joke of any kind.
Not on me specifically that I can recall, no.
It might be a wise move.
Yeah.
You could give us some bad cars or something if that happened.
Yeah, turnarounds.
Yeah. May not be something to mess with. Let's see. Lisa G88 wants to know what kind of music you listen to. Are you a fan of any type of music in particular?
The majority of the time, Lithium off of the internet or off of Sirius is what I listen to.
Okay, that's good stuff. Let's ask you this. T. Burglar would like to know, Doug Dukart was here last week. He did some impersonations, including Chad, which was pretty good, I thought.
Yes, he is our chief impersonator.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Well, T. Burglar is wondering if you have any talents, hidden talents that you can share with us.
Not that I can think of right now, no.
Okay, so you're not getting into the impersonation, no singing, or you don't sing along to Lithium, basically.
To myself.
To yourself, okay, but not good enough to share here. Right. Well, listen, next week we thank you very much for coming, by the way.
Thank you.
And next week we'll be back here with Lance McGrew on ampupthe88.com at 12:30. And is there anything that you can tell us about Lance that we should maybe take a dig at him, or funny stories, or try to ask him something?
No, I have to think about that one.
Okay, yes, you can send in questions.
Yes.
Yeah, please do. Just like all you can. Anyway, that's a wrap. So thank you for joining us at ampupthe88.com, which is where you come to amp up for the race every week. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.